This is Maximilian Alvarez, editor-in-chief of the Real News Network. We're in the middle of our summer fundraising campaign, and we could really use your help. We've set some big goals for this fundraiser, and we're aiming to raise $50,000 so we can expand our coverage and produce more amazing shows like the one you're watching now. So please, donate to the Real News, support our mission, and help us create more journalism that powers movements.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Juan Gonzalez, the co-host of Democracy Now! And a senior fellow at the University of Illinois, Chicago. I have been asked to moderate a forum on a very important topic these days, democracy, immigration, and the 2024 elections.
As far as settlements, I'd like to see you hold back on settlements for a little bit.
And secondly, on the settlement issue, are you both on the same page?
As far as settlements, I'd like to see you hold back on settlements for a little bit. We'll work something out, but I would like to see a deal be made. I think a deal will be made. Bibi and I have known each other a long time. A smart man, great negotiator, and I think we're going to make a deal. It might be a bigger and better deal than people in this room even understand. That's a possibility. So let's see what we do.
Let's start.
Israel says at least a dozen children and teenagers were killed after a rocket hit a soccer field where they were playing. The Israeli military says it's the deadliest attack on its civilians since October 7th, and it's blaming Hezbollah, the powerful Iranian-backed militant group in southern Lebanon. Hezbollah tonight denying responsibility, but Israel vowing to strike back.
Let's bring in former Navy SEAL Jonathan Gilliam. Jonathan, remarkable that Israel killed the leader of Hamas and a top Hezbollah commander within hours of each other. What does this mean for the war going forward?
Well, I think it's a message to Iran, because you got to remember, when you talk about Hezbollah, you talk about Hamas, you're talking about Iran, because those are proxy fighters for Iran. It's a message to Iran that Israel is looking tactically at their leadership to knock down any leadership that they can, because you have to remember the way that many of these different groups within the Middle East, the way that they work is their leaders are very important because they micromanage their troops. Their troops aren't trained to the level that United States or Israeli troops are trained to. So these leaders are very important. So when they can take one of those leaders out, it really does affect what they're capable of doing and coordinating for a period of time before they can get someone else in there. It also shows that as Iran threatens and says all these things, and Hezbollah does the same, that they literally went to the areas where their leadership is at and then took those individuals out. That is a huge, direct, and specific message to Iran and their proxies. And when you flip it around, what they do is they use terror by just throwing rockets into the cities and killing innocent people. So Israel targets specifically, and sometimes there's collateral damage, but Iran and their proxies always look for that collateral damage. They want to hit civilians so that they can cause panic and fear and ultimately people to turn against Netanyahu.
Jonathan, these last 12 hours, is this the moment that history will look back upon and say, this is when the broad regional conflict really, really erupted?
I don't think so. I think this is, right now, we're kind of the way that we were when Iran tried to send all the drones and some planes to go and hit Israel earlier this year. I don't think it's going to lead now. There's always the possibility.
To Israel. Given the situation, in a call between Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the US President Joe Biden, the US President reaffirmed Washington's commitment to Tel Aviv and discussed efforts to support Israel defense from threats, including against ballistic missiles and drones.
This shocking move
Gunshots ring out. Where to run? Where's safe? Gunshots ring out. Children scream in terror. There's chaos, panic. Help us.
This is my grandson. I don't know where his mother is. He's just 20 days.
The stream of people fleeing looks endless. It's from the area as they launch a fresh assault on Khan Yunis, accusing Hamas of firing rockets from the area. A brother pulls along his sister, too weak to walk. Little legs struggle to keep up in the heat. An elderly woman sits down on the side of the road. Is it better to die here than keep on running and running? Amongst the crowd, 3 young siblings. We saw many people who were dead in front of us. Their stomachs were cut open, he says. We don't know where our parents are now. Are we in a safe place now, one asks. Thank God, he sighs. But where to go now? The so-called humanitarian zone Israel has told them to flee to has been repeatedly targeted too. Sprawled on the floor of an overwhelmed hospital. Helpless parents look on. Outside in the court, a different world. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Israel's Prime Minister buried. Just 70-odd miles away, a different world. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu setting off from Tel Aviv for Washington, D.C.
I will tell my friends on both sides of the aisle that regardless who the American people choose as their next president, Israel remains America's indispensable and strong ally in the Middle East.
At home, protests over the weekend calling on him not to fly out without agreeing a ceasefire deal that would see Israeli hostages returned.